Hello and welcome back to another episode of A Cozy Christmas Podcast. My name is Art and happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I don't know about you, but by the time you listen to this, there's a very good chance I will be passed out on my couch, slowly digesting turkey and stuffing and gravy and mashed potatoes and sweet potatoes and corn and green beans and rolls and pumpkin pie and apple pie and salads and so much more good food than I can share. So let me welcome you, if you are pre or post turkey coma, to another episode of A Cozy Christmas Podcast. I have such a fun episode planned for today. I'll be talking with Liz Ireland about her new Mrs. Claus Mystery Series book called Mrs. Claus and Trouble with Turkeys. And if everything goes according to plan, I'm reading it right now this week. And I will be talking about it once in an upcoming episode once I finish it. But I can't imagine I'm going to hate it. I'm really excited to get to it this week. Also, this means that if today is Thanksgiving, tomorrow is Christmas decorating day. So if you need me, I'll be outside on a ladder hanging up Christmas lights. My son will be standing by with 911 on speed dial. Gracie's going to be running around singing Christmas carols. My wife is probably going to be taking a very well-deserved nap. She has had an incredibly busy year this year. She's been working on a master's degree and all kinds of other projects and things she's been involved with. So I think she's earned a day of rest. But I would love to hear about how and when and how and why and when, where do you decorate? What are some of your Christmas traditions? What are you most looking forward to this year? Let me know. You can send me an email at cozychristmaspodcast@gmail.com and I'll read your Christmas memories, your traditions, your stories. Send them my way. I would love to hear from you. Hello there. I have a public service announcement. With me today is Pumpkin. Now, Pumpkin doesn't say much. Pumpkin is a dog. She's an Australian Shepherd, and she is the delight of my life. Sorry, kids. So her vet this year sent out an email about some of the harmful foods for your pets that should be avoided at Thanksgiving. I would have Pumpkin read it, but she lost her glasses. They said, with Thanksgiving just around the corner, this time of year is a busy time for family and friends. While we gather to enjoy our meals, we often forget that some of the foods we eat are not the best to share with our furry friends and can have consequences. So they link an article called 4 Harmful Thanksgiving Foods for Pets. And so the article is at aspcapro.org. And Pumpkin and I want you to know that we want the best for your pets this year. So, with that in mind, this article says, in part, Thanksgiving is a time of gratitude and indulgence. You got that right. It goes on to say, with all the extra food and chaos this time of year, it's important to be prepared to treat pets for common foods served around the holidays. Here are some helpful tips from the ASPCA Animal Poison Control Center for Diagnosis and Treatment of Common Thanksgiving Pet Poisons. So some foods to avoid, they mention, are onions and garlic. I did not actually know that, but my oldest son's girlfriend is a vet tech, and she mentioned when we first got Pumpkin, don't feed dogs onions. She sees that, I guess, often people will bring in pets that have eaten onions, and they get very sick. So no onions, no garlic. Animal bones. A lot of what I know about animals I've learned from watching cartoons. So say what you will about that. But, you've always seen the dogs chewing on a bone. Remember that cooked bones, especially cooked animal bones. I mean, what other bones would you be cooking? Hey, get Uncle Harry out of the pot. Yeah. The cooked bones become soft so they can tend to splinter. And this article says there is a risk for esophageal damage. They said to be careful about bouillon. Bouillon cubes are used when making stocks like gravy and other items. It says the reason for this is that bouillon contains a very high amount of sodium, and ingestion of these cubes may lead to hypernatremia. And I'll spare you the details of the symptoms of that, but it can actually be fairly fatal to them. And then another food they said to be careful about are baked goods, which makes me sad. But it says pumpkin pie with whipped cream and apple pie with whipped cream are all classics during this time of year and can lead to pancreatitis if ingested. It says that baked goods made with xylitol can cause hypoglycemia, possibly resulting in liver failure. I think it's especially that chemical called xylitol, which they have found is very toxic to pets, which is actually even in some peanut butter, I've been told. So you want to keep an eye on that. Anyway, I found that article to be helpful. I'll link that in the show notes if that's something you want to read in more depth. But do be careful. Our dog, Pumpkin here, she loves chicken. She loves turkey. And she is going out of her mind wanting to eat this food. But we have to be careful with the carcass, because those bones can splinter and really do some damage inside of her. They do give a phone number if you're not sure or need to call the animal poison control, which I did not know was a thing. But the number for that is 888-426-4435. And they will be able to assist you at any time, 24/7. This article also has some more descriptions of the symptoms to look for and ways the vet would probably treat it. But you might also want to just be aware if there's a local vet or emergency hospital nearby, just in case. Well, Pumpkin, do you want to say a few words? Okay, that doesn't really translate well into podcast. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and send you back to our regularly scheduled program. Please enjoy this interview with Liz Ireland, author of the Mrs. Claus Mystery Series. Today on A Cozy Christmas Podcast. Yes, I almost forgot the name of my podcast. I've been doing too many.
Yes.
Well, welcome back to A Cozy Christmas Podcast. I have a special returning guest today, Liz Ireland. She's the author of the Mrs. Claus Mystery Series. And this is, we read Mrs. Claus and the Santaland Sleighs for our January book club pick. We all really enjoyed that. Liz, welcome back to A Cozy Christmas Podcast.
Hi, Art. Thanks for having me back. It's good to be here. Always fun to talk to you.
Absolutely. I enjoy talking to myself too. So no, it's why I podcast, I just talk to myself.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's great to have you back on. And for fans of the Mrs. Claus Mystery Series, you've got a new book coming out for Thanksgiving, which if my podcast schedule holds tight, this will be the Thanksgiving episode. So happy Thanksgiving. And you have published this fall, Mrs. Claus and the Trouble with Turkeys.
Yes.
Well, tell us a little bit about what Mrs. Claus has been up to this year, because I know you have a novella out as well for Halloween.
Right. We just there was a Kensington cozy mystery compilation or anthology, and called The Halloween Cupcake Murder. My novella in that book is called Mrs. Claus and the Candy Corn Caper, and it's set during Halloween. Santaland is celebrating Halloween once again, and this year they're having a bake-off, and Mrs. Claus has chosen the bake-off ingredient, and she picked candy corn, not realizing that candy corn isn't really something in Santaland. So the elves are having to figure out how to get candy corn or how to make it, and then they order a batch that gets stolen, and that's the beginning of the story. And then they're trying to figure out, well, how do you bake with candy corn? I don't think Mrs. Claus thought this out very well. So, but then there are two rival bakers the Silver Bells Bakery and Chestnut's Cake Emporium, who are they have a little rivalry going on because Chestnut's Cake Emporium is sort of the upstart new bakery that everybody wants to go to. And he's kind of taken one of Silver Bell's best bakers named Wink, and Wink, unfortunately, is found dead at the Cake Emporium one morning, and next to a candy corn cupcake that he's made as a prototype for the Bake Off. So Mrs. Claus is trying to figure out what's happened to the stolen candy corn, who killed Wink, various things, lots going on. And meanwhile, the elves at Castle Kringle have decided they're going to celebrate Thanksgiving this year. They're going to do it as a surprise to Mrs. Claus, because they don't really celebrate Thanksgiving in Santaland. So at least not, in the American tradition. But they're going to do this for her because she is an American by birth. Butterbean the elf has he's ordered a turkey online, and he's having one imported to Santaland from Farley's turkey farm in Arkansas, and it all goes bad. It doesn't work out very well. So it's sort of well, I guess I would call it an Easter egg sort of thing for the novella readers. It's kind of a sort of a little lead in to Mrs. Claus and the Trouble with Turkeys, because eventually the turkey does show up, and his name is Gobbles. He's a live turkey.
Uh-oh.
And they're having to they build a big enclosure for Gobbles, like a turkey condo at Castle Kringle. And one morning at the beginning of Mrs. Claus and the Trouble with Turkeys, Gobbles is gone. He's been bird napped, they assume. They don't know whether it's by somebody who's a turkey fanatic or somebody who wants their own Thanksgiving dinner. They aren't sure. So that's the beginning of the Mrs. Claus and the Trouble with Turkeys, because she has to try to locate the Thanksgiving dinner. And it's unclear whether there is going to be a Thanksgiving dinner, even if they find him, because the whole Santaland is very fond of Gobbles, the turkey, now. So
yeah, once you name a pet or
yes.
food, you don't name your food. That's
yeah, especially they put up little missing posters all over Santaland. So Gobbles is he's become very familiar to the whole place. So
yeah,
but there's also going to be they've discovered the Macy's Halloween parade. So and in New York, so they're going to have their own I'm sorry, Thanksgiving parade.
Right.
I'm getting all confused with Thanksgiving and Halloween now.
There you are.
So they're having a big Thanksgiving parade down in Christmastown. Mrs. Claus is going to have to learn how to twirl, I guess, because they need a majorette, because the main majorette, or one of the majorettes, gets killed at a kind of pre-Thanksgiving dinner. She's got to solve who killed this person. It's one of the Claus family who gets murdered, and she also has to figure out where the turkey is. So lots going on.
Yeah, definitely.
It's always busy there.
It is. Well, people who listen to my show know I genuinely love this series, and I'm always excited to get a new one. So with any luck, this week, Thanksgiving week, I'll be reading Mrs. Claus and the Trouble with Turkeys and helping it get me into a Thanksgiving mood. So
yeah.
And making that transition to Christmas time. So that's always enjoyable. And I love the names of your elves. They're just so perfect. Butterbeans and all that.
Oh yeah.
It's great. And of course we won't, I'm sure Constable Crinkle will try to mess things up or arrest the wrong person.
Yeah. Well, they have their own thing going on. They're trying to make a big float for the parade. And so their theme is donuts, and so they've kind of gone into they're colluding with Puffy's all day donuts for the for the constabulary's parade float. So they're going to be tossing donuts into the crowd. It's
No,
going to be a very popular float.
I was gonna say that's a parade I would go to. Yeah, yeah. I'm, I'm not a big fan of parades. And I don't know if maybe it's the Midwest where I live that we just don't do it right.
Mm.
Because honestly, the parades here, it's just like long lines of tractors and fire trucks and the occasional high school band. But even then, it's
Yeah.
it's like, oh, another fire truck. Okay. Um,
But think if people were tossing donuts at you, that would
yes,
be.
so much better, right? I did go to a parade in Omaha, which is about an hour from us, and it was for, I think it was for Labor Day, and a restaurant chain was handing out slices of pie, and they have great pie,
Oh
and
yeah.
so that was a good parade. I got a piece of pie. Yeah.
My
So
kind of parade.
that's right. I need baked goods. Yeah. Well, I guess speaking of donuts, do you have a favorite donut?
I love an apple fritter. Apple fritters are probably my favorite. Is that a, I guess, well, is that a donut? I think it is.
But yeah, apple fritters, those are good. I love those.
Yeah.
I consider them a donut. Yeah. And then there's the ones that are we have. They're like a, I don't know what they call them, but they're full. They have Bavarian cream in the middle, and then chocolate icing on top, and oh, so good.
Those are very good too.
Yes.
There's hardly a donut that I don't like, really.
I have not found one yet. I'll keep trying, but
I mean, even if I don't think it's the best donut in the world, it's still a donut, you know?
right.
I mean, it'd have to be incredibly stale for me to think, oh, that's not worth it.
Even then, I might be willing to try it.
Well, you have to test it, before
Right.
you can figure it out.
Right.
And then you can always dunk it, if it's too stale. So
Yep.
kind of revive it.
Yep. Yeah, my dad's actually given me a couple of hints how to revive a stale donut. So
Now that's what parents are good for,
that's right.
That good advice you need
Yeah,
to get yourself through life.
that's right. If you have a good cup of coffee, you can revive anything. So
Ask Dad. He knows.
that's right. Yeah, this is like I had mentioned, Thanksgiving week, Thanksgiving Day, when the episode will be out, and I like to have a guest on to talk about Thanksgiving and kind of take a little bit of break from all the Christmas craziness, and to have a few moments just to talk about it, and to also take some time to just talk about what we're thankful for. But now you live in British Columbia.
I do, yes.
It turns out you folks have a Thanksgiving Day as well in October, I believe. Is that right?
We do. It happened a month ago. But I'm half American too, so I still celebrate American Thanksgiving, and sometimes I invite my Canadian friends over for American Thanksgiving. It's not going to work out this year, so it's just going to be my husband and me, and having, a kind of modified Thanksgiving dinner. But, I love Thanksgiving food. Thanksgiving was my favorite holiday when I was growing up. It was just, it was great because, it was the great food, but also I had 6 people in my immediate family, and 4 of us were born during Thanksgiving week. So it
Mm.
was like Thanksgiving with cake and presents every other day. It was always a lot of fun. So, and sometimes people's birthdays would fall on Thanksgiving. So you'd have Thanksgiving and then you'd have a birthday party too. So it was always,
Mm.
there was always something good happening. Usually, one of us would get a game or something. And so there would be lots to do after we're stuffed full of food. We'd go play
Mhm.
with the new basketball or whatever we had.
Now, is there much of a difference between Canadian Thanksgiving and American Thanksgiving?
It's the scope, it's the size. I think it's a more modest holiday up here. It really is just, you kind of get the day off. It's a Monday holiday here.
Mm.
And so it's a long weekend, and usually it's a very family, but immediate. People don't usually travel
Mm,
to go visit far-flung family. Um, it's not a big, just horrible mess at the airports or anything like that. There's nothing like that. And of course, there's no Black Friday after it. So, I mean, there's none of this like crazy beginning of the crazy shopping era
yeah.
or moments. So, it's just a more modest holiday, but it is almost exactly. I think there are some specific foods they eat here, but a lot of it's very much very similar.
Mm,
Um, because I mean, most of well, I shouldn't say this because this isn't really true, but I mean, I mean, most of Canada is kind of, most of the people in Canada live sort of along the US border or close to it. We're in
hmm.
the South mostly. And so, a lot of our foods kind of overlap, but a lot of places have their own special regional specialties too.
Yeah. I live in Iowa. There's food here that I've been introduced to that I had never heard of, when I was out on the West Coast years and years
Mm.
ago. One is something called Watergate salad.
That, that does not have a good sound, does it?
No.
Like something about Richard Nixon or
I know. I think that's where it pulls the name from. It was
oh,
kind of
really?
invented around that same time. And it's like this green pistachio pudding type dessert with
Hmm.
crushed pineapple in it and not mushrooms, marshmallows.
Oh, I think I've seen that and I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Is it like in a Jello mold kind of
Yeah,
thing
kind
or?
of.
Yeah,
It's like a Jello fluff type thing.
yeah,
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 I personally don't like it, but my
yeah.
wife and her family, this was almost a deal breaker for her when she found out I didn't really care for it. It's like, oh, wait a minute.
Oh, no.
I said, well, you're welcome to have it every holiday, but just don't expect me to eat it.
Yeah. Well, when I was growing up, I mean, those Jello mold salads were
Hmm.
always such a big deal. And everybody would bring them, so you'd have, there would be a green one and there would be a red one and there would be, some of them would have fruit in them and, some would just have cream cheese or something mixed in. And it was, it was always a thing. I haven't had one of those in so long.
Yeah.
It's good to hear that people are, are still, the tradition continues.
Yes, and it is a very sacred food item
Yes.
for Thanksgiving and for Christmas dinner both. It's if there's not Watergate salad, it's was it really a holiday?
That's great.
Yeah, yeah, and of course I've it's become tradition now where I start making fun of it and all that too. So I'm like, you do know they make good desserts now, don't you? I got to be careful because I don't really actually want to hurt anyone's feelings, but it's like that's just a little too much for me. I don't think I could. I don't care for that.
Well, the best thing, the great thing about Thanksgiving is this huge meal, and then the best part is the desserts. And so,
Hmm.
it's just kind of a crazy time, it's just
Hmm.
stuff fest.
Oh yeah, if you're doing it right, there'll be something for you to eat there. So
Yeah, or overeat there.
oh, definitely. I just found out from my doctor that I have high cholesterol, so I'm having to
Oh
kind of
no.
change how I eat. And it's like, why did you tell me this now as we're about to enter into the Thanksgiving and Christmas season?
Yeah.
Can I start, dieting next year? can, I,
Yeah.
can I put it off for a little while?
New Year's resolution.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So actually I'm going to, try to be looking out for some kind of, heart healthy Christmas dessert treat kind of thing. See what I can come up with. So,
Maybe it's Watergate salad.
oh, uh-oh. Well, I guess I won't be having dessert then. Actually, with the amount of whipped cream that goes in that, I don't know if that would be
Oh,
any.
really? Okay. Well,
That might
now
not.
I'm kind of interested. Whipped
I'll
cream.
have
All
to
right.
have to send you the recipe. See if I can get it for my wife. There might be another name it's called, but that's like the name everybody calls it around here anyway. So my wife's parents are from New York, upstate New York. So that might be something that they've carried from New York
Mm.
into our area. I have no idea, but whatever it is, it's what's for dinner. So
That's hilarious.
well, my favorite Thanksgiving dish, of course, is turkey. That's pretty
Mm.
traditional, but I'm a pretty traditional guy, so I really don't have anything I would consider too out of the ordinary. I would have for Thanksgiving dinner, just turkey, stuffing, potatoes, all the good stuff.
Yeah. I like mac and cheese. My husband makes a good mac and cheese and stuffing and all the sides. I love all the sides. I love the desserts that you don't really like. I love pecan pie,
Mm-hmm.
but I never really want to have a pecan pie except maybe one slice per year, so it's always nice to have a pecan pie opportunity, Thanksgiving.
Yeah, pecan pie is one that I really never enjoyed. It just I think it's too sweet.
It
It's
is
it's
it
just
is incredibly sweet.
yeah
It's just it's like a shot of sugar.
yeah. And it might just be for me. That's just too much. It's
Yeah,
but they sure smell good when they bake. That's for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, you can really overdose on pecan pie too. I mean, if you're not careful. That's why I
Mm.
just think, it's one of those things that you really would only want to have once a year,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and some people apparently don't want to have it ever. So, but I also like sweet potato pie because I grew up in a place where there were a lot of sweet potatoes. So I always love sweet potato time.
Yeah. Now somebody told me just recently that that was one of their favorites, and they said it's better than
Hmm.
pumpkin pie, although they're
Hmm.
very similar. I think, aren't they?
Yeah, the spices are very similar, but it's got a different texture. Pumpkin pie, after you've had sweet potato pie, pumpkin pie seems really kind of mushy. I mean, it's just
Mm.
a different text. It's not as firm. So, I don't know. There's something about sweet potato pie. I really like the flavor of it.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds good. I love sweet potatoes.
Hmm.
My wife has a couple of recipes she makes. One is like it's like a chicken sweet potato chipotle dish.
Mm.
It's basically chicken and cheese on sweet potatoes and chipotle seasonings and peppers, I guess, whatever they are. Anyway, it's whatever it's in it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
It's really good.
Great.
A little bit of a spicy kick to it, which I like,
Hmm.
but it's not too bad where you're chugging milk or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she just made a beef stew the other day, and had chunks of sweet potatoes in it, and oh man, it's so good.
Yes.
Well, folks, this episode is guaranteed to make you hungry, if which is a good thing it's Thanksgiving today. Well, one of our traditions, I like share things that we're thankful for this year. I was wondering if you had a couple of things you could share that you're thankful for this past year, or past couple of years, even.
Well, this year, it's been a really kind of hard year for my family. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, really thankful for all of my family that I'm lucky to have still with me. And my dad was sick just recently and with, some heart trouble. And so I'm just so thankful that, we're all still here and still feeling good. He's doing a lot better. And so that is my biggest thing that I'm thankful for this year. And I'm always thankful that I mean, I'm just incredibly lucky in that I get to write books and do the thing I love best. So I find that I'm never out of gratitude for that. I love what I do. It's incredibly lucky that I get to do what I do. And and I'm thankful for, being able to do that and all the people who, you know, enjoy what I do and take time to tell me that they enjoy it is really wonderful too. It's a really great thing. So those are my two big ones.
I think many can share in that, that I, that philosophy, that idea, that we have our loved ones with us. Those moments are so, just so precious when we have them.
Yeah.
And this year, I am going to say, this might sound silly, but I'm very thankful for our dog Pumpkin. We were talking about her before we started recording, and I am an animal lover. I just really enjoy having pets. But our dog, we got her in October of last year, and we hadn't had a dog for quite a while. We went to the Humane Society, to the shelter, and said, okay, we're just looking today. We're not going to get anything. Don't get our hopes up and everything. But she was such an immediate perfect fit for our family that it was like, I know we said we weren't going to make a last minute decision here, but I think we need to, because she just had the right temperament for us. She was what we needed. Like many people, I think our mental health had really kind of taken a hit this past, last year, that past year or two. And,
Yeah.
We were needed to make some changes just in like exercise and lifestyle and things. And getting a dog who is so active and is so excited to, go for walks and things has really helped us this past year to get out more. Unfortunately, it didn't help, lower my cholesterol at all, but that's not her fault. But, and she's such just a sweet dog around us that I know dogs don't replace people and all that, but I really appreciate and I'm thankful for having her be in our family and just being such a perfect fit for us.
Well, animals, they take up a big part of your life because they're so dependent and they never stop being dependent, and they're just so present in your house, when you have them. It's just I just remember, I haven't had animals for a little while, but I remember that feeling of just, if you're sitting in a room and suddenly the cat walks in, and it's just great. It just is immediate distraction, this immediate feeling of having this little kind of little alien walking through your house, who always seems to really like you, it's pretty great. So, I don't know. I understand being very thankful for pets.
If she wants to go out, she'll start nudging me out of my chair. I mean, literally, using her head to kind of push me out. And it's the funniest thing. So when we had the time change in this past weekend when we were recording, she wakes us up about an hour earlier than she usually does. It's like, oh no. We can still sleep. Go back to bed.
She can't read the clock.
Right. But yeah, I'm real grateful for that. And I also wanted to express my gratitude for my family as well. I know that's kind of a cliche, but even as you said, I'm just thankful that we're together. We have good health for the most part. I know like my in-laws have had some health struggles this past year. And, I'm getting into middle age now where I have to start being concerned about different things and all that. Watching my kids, I've got my two sons now are done with high school. My oldest is in college, and just watching them grow up and becoming little adults. It's just really gratifying to see that and that they're making their way. And my daughter, Grace, she's just starting high school and has had all the drama that goes with that. But it's just great. They're turning out to be really wonderful people, and I'm so thankful for that. And it's neat to see that, definitely. Also would invite anyone listening to just send us a message or comments or something, what you all are thankful for. I'm kind of glad Thanksgiving is kind of right in the middle of this whole Christmas time, because it's good to kind of center our attention on gratitude as we head into December. I know sometimes we can get accused of, forgetting about Thanksgiving, but I always look at Thanksgiving as a part of our Christmas celebrations. So
it's sort of the kickoff. in a way.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I call it the official start of Christmas, Most of us are probably early November, and then others are even earlier than that. It could be something we forget, but we're definitely wanting to make time for that.
so how long after Thanksgiving do you wait before you start kicking into serious Christmas mode? I mean, when does your tree go up?
Our tree will go up Friday after Thanksgiving.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's that's
That's
about
hardcore.
yeah. Well, I know some will do it actually beforehand. It's some it will depend if they have like a lot of decorations to put up. I know some will they'll have a crazy amount of Christmas trees in their house and around, and so they get started in October or early November. But my wife has told us we're not allowed to put any tree up or anything until after Thanksgiving. So it's like, okay, Friday, it's after Thanksgiving. Up it goes.
Looking at your watch through dinner.
Right. Yeah. Technically, it's we're done with Thanksgiving dinner.
Dessert's over. Time.
Put up the tree. Yeah. But yeah, we'll get it up about as soon as we can. And then my wife is ready for it to come down a couple days after Christmas. She doesn't mind it. She's not one that wants it down the day after, but if it lasts too long into the new year, she's like, okay, this thing needs to go away now.
Well, if you put it up in November, then it's probably dripping needles.
Well, we have a fake tree, so
Oh, okay. That's
yeah,
good. Because I was wondering, how do you keep that tree alive all those weeks?
yeah. I don't think I'd even try it.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's good. Artificial trees are good too. That's
Yeah.
yeah. The only great thing about them is the smell.
Mm.
It's just having that huge tree in your house. It just creates such a good smell. But you can do little boughs of evergreen and does the same thing.
Do you have a real tree then?
No,
Oh, okay.
I'm not. I'm not actually a big Christmas decorator. I don't go crazy for Christmas decorations because
Hmm.
it was always so depressing to take them down. So, but yeah, I usually just like put decorations around and actually I have little decorations that I never take down. So,
Mm.
in fact, one of them is my little snowman Charlie from
Uh-huh.
he was like from Sandland Slings. He's got the name of Old Charlie, and he's kind of my muse. He sits on my computer all year round. So,
That's great. Yeah,
yeah.
I have a print of one of the illustrations from A Christmas Carol.
Hmm.
It's the Ghost of Christmas Present. Where you probably would recognize it if you saw it. He's sitting on the food and Scrooge is down there looking shocked, and it's a print from the first edition, and I have that framed and it's in our living room. I left it up one year just to see how long it would take my wife to notice, and she didn't say anything for quite a while, and it was well into the year, and we were joking about Christmas or something, and then she says like, and don't think I haven't noticed that Christmas picture hanging behind your chair.
That's hilarious.
But I really like it, just even as a work of art. It's one of those little things that make me happy when I see it. And I, as much as I joke about it, I don't know if I could handle having Christmas decorations up year round. I do kind of like the break, so it gives you something to look forward to. But
Yeah.
I like having just a little reminder here and there. Like,
Little hint.
yeah.
I was looking at a picture of a friend's house, and he had shown his fireplace, and it was a recent picture, and there were Christmas stockings like on either side of his mantle.
Hmm.
And somebody was asking him, you know, have you already started decorating for Christmas? And he said he never had taken them down.
Oh,
So then I started thinking, well, that actually sounds kind of fun to have your Christmas stocking up all year round. Because you could, if you had your spouse and you had your Christmas stockings up, I mean, you could kind of slip things in throughout the year and see if they ever noticed. Be kind of fun.
there was one Christmas when my daughter was younger. she was really getting into the giving gifts and catching the excitement of that, and very genuine about it too. She would start like making little pictures and little homemade gifts and would be sticking them in my stocking every day, it seemed like. And if I didn't notice, she'd get kind of upset, like, "Hey, have you checked your stocking yet, Daddy?" Like, oh,
That's
okay,
great.
well, we got to wait for Christmas. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, but I have some great plans for this Christmas season to get some reading done. I've got a couple of great books I'm looking forward to. And you mentioned too that you've been thinking about what you're going to read this coming Christmas time. Do
Yes.
you have anything you're looking forward to reading?
Well, yes, actually, I've started reading. I found in my little free library, I found this collection called A Vintage Christmas. And it's full of stories by Louisa May Alcott and Charles Dickens and Lucy Maud Montgomery. And I was just reading this morning, there's a letter from Mark Twain to his 3-year-old daughter that he wrote as if he were Santa Claus,
Mm.
telling her what she needed to do in order to get I guess she had asked for like a trunk of doll clothes or something, and he's giving her instructions that he's going to come back and talk to her, but she needs to talk through the door at such and such time in the morning, and but not to tell not to look through the door because it's obviously going to be him talking to her.
Mm.
It's a very bizarre document, but it's very entertaining. Gives you kind of sense of how he must have been as a dad. He had all these elaborate like little ruses he was playing on his kids. Um, so I've started reading that, and it's full of short stories and some poetry. I'm not really a big poetry person, but I guess Christmas poetry, I guess. Um, and then I've got some audiobooks that I downloaded. And one of them is from last year, and it's called A Christmas Candy Killing by Christine Romeril. Have you heard of that? It's a
I've
cozy
heard of it.
mystery about two twin sisters who've opened a kind of crime, a mystery bookstore and chocolate shop in a little town. I think it's in Wyoming. Um, and it's it's pretty fun. I mean, they're
Hmm.
naming their chocolates after poisons and mysteries, which I don't know how that's appealing as a customer, but it's very fun to read about. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I started listening to that, and I've also got the Have Yourself a Deadly Little Christmas by Vicki Delaney, which
Hmm.
it's part of her year-round mystery series, which I haven't read because it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of in I don't know, a year-round Christmas village is sort of kind of close to where my imagination lives, and
Hmm.
I don't like to get, too close to that, but it just it just looked good to me. So I just it was an impulse buy off of audible.com, and so I had to get it. So I'm looking forward to that. And also got an MC Beaton a Highland Christmas, which is the Hamish Macbeth series, one of
Hmm.
them. And I've never read the Hamish Macbeth series. Have you?
Not all of them, but yeah, I've read a handful.
Oh, okay. So anyway, I was just thinking it sounded good and it sounds Christmassy, and I wanted to give it a try. So
Sure.
I've got a lot of I'm an editor on my local Sisters in Crime chapters
Hmm.
anthology for next year. And we're doing all of our short story reading in the next month. So going up to Christmas, I'm not going to have a lot of time for physical reading because I'm going to have to be reading a lot of short stories. So I'm kind of focusing on audiobooks more to get my pleasure reading in.
Hmm.
Not that these short stories won't be pleasurable too, but
Right.
it's just it feels more like an assignment.
Oh yeah, yeah.
A fun assignment, but still,
Right. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. But yeah, I've heard of a couple of those books, but I haven't read any of them. Although the Vicky Delaney one, I am reading that series, but I don't. I don't remember. I know there's a couple left in that I still have to catch up
I
on.
think it's a fairly recent one, and I'm very bad because I never read books in series order. I'm very bad about reading them out of order. So yeah, I just picked the one that looked good to me and bought it.
There you go.
I'm a barbarian.
Yes. um, it's like I have to read them in order, but I'm getting a little bit better, especially with cozy mysteries. I get a lot of authors, sending me cozy mysteries that are, Christmas based, and it's like book 5 or 6 or whatever, and it's like, okay, I can't go back and read all 4 to get caught up, but the cozy mystery tends to lend itself to being able to read out of order more than
Yeah.
most series would. So I'm getting better at it. But
Yeah. There are some series that I'll read in order if I'm, but some of these cozy mysteries, they come at you fast and furiously. So if you don't if you're waiting to get caught up by reading them in sequence, then you'll get really far behind, I found. So
yeah, right.
I mean, sometimes you have to skip one or two. Um,
Right. Not yours, of course, but
Not mine.
others. Yeah.
No, no. Yeah, I do try to make it to where somebody who hasn't been in the world before hasn't, I try to kind of introduce, although
Mm.
I don't think I'm introducing things at length like I used to. I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of, because that would get really tedious for the people who have read the series. But I try to like get people a little caught up at the beginning to, set the stage and who
Mm-hmm.
these people are and what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know it is kind of bizarre if you're just picking up this book and thinking, what is there are snowmen talking. What's going
I
on
know.
here?
What? Snowman?
I always like the snowmen. If I get a snowman opportunity, I'm always happy.
Yeah. I love the snowman. And what was it? Was it the book last year? They had snowboards or something they could fly around on. That was that
Yeah.
was great.
This year there's a snowman in Trouble with Turkeys. I introduce a new snowman character who he loses his hat. And so the Constable Crinkles gives him a spare hat that he has around the constabulary. And so now the snowman is convinced he's a constable too. He
Love it.
he runs around acting like a policeman. Of course, he can't run. He just stands there and issues orders at people. So it kind of cracks me up.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. Well, I'm looking forward. I've got probably more books listed than I can read this December. So
Well, that's the way to do it.
that's right. It's always better to have more than too few.
So what's on your list? You always have good books for recommendations. So I got my pencil here. I'm ready to go.
Well, I'll be reading a book, Cozy Mystery, Slashing Through the Snow by Jacqueline Frost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hers take place at a Christmas tree farm.
Yes.
And I think that's book 3 or 4 is where I'm at. And then if I have time, I might actually read that in November and then read the next one in December. We'll see. But I
I've
really
never
enjoyed.
read any of the Jacqueline Frost books, but it's the pseudonym for Julianne Lindsay, who
Hmm.
is a very prolific cozy mystery writer, and her books always crack me up. I find her so fun. She's just great.
The one I read by her earlier this year, that the dead body was found in like in a giant candy dish. It was this huge candy dish, and the body was in there. And like, oh man, that's gonna leave some trauma. And kids, you find that. But another one I really want to get to is called American Christmas Stories, and it's edited by Connie Willis. She's a sci-fi writer,
Mhm. Yeah.
and she actually has a lot of Christmas themed short stories.
Does she really?
Yeah, there's a collection she put together called it's called Feels a Lot Like Christmas, or A Lot Like Christmas, and it's like all of her Christmas short stories in one novel. So or one collection. So you've got stories that are kind of like a dark twist to them, or kind of something very humorous or tragic, and it all has a little bit of a sci-fi element to it.
Yeah.
That was really enjoyable.
So do you read her sci-fi books too?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
She's become one of my favorite sci-fi writers. I'm starting to I've read enough where I've gone back now. I'm trying to read all of her books and track them down. But this one, I think she's just the editor on, but it's just a collection of short stories about Christmas. And I've got that. Let's see. There's a mystery, another one called The Usual Santas. And I can't remember who did that one, but I think it's, there might be another one I'm mixing it up with now, but it's like a mystery that takes place among mall Santas, and they're trying to solve the mystery. That one I'm really looking forward to. And then, of course, I'll be rereading my my yearly reread of A Christmas Carol. On the podcast, I'm thinking of reading some of Anthony Trollope's Christmas short stories,
Oh, excellent.
and that might be the story project I read for the podcast this Christmas time. The one, Christmas at Thompson Hall by Anthony Trollope, it's just a novella, but it's a lot of fun. It's kind of a case of mistaken identity storyline where this group is gathered in Thompson Hall for the Christmas holidays, and a lady ends up going into the wrong room, and that's all I'll say because it's so funny. And she's trying to help her husband with he's like sick, and so she makes this mustard pack and goes and puts it, she thinks she's putting it on her husband, and it turns out it was somebody else, and it's really hilarious. Good. Yeah. I believe that's that one. I haven't read it in a couple of years, but it's either that's the one at Christmas at Thompson Hall or it's in that collection, but it's just really funny. And Trollope is just a great author. I just came across him a few years ago, but
he's one of my favorite. I was telling somebody to read He Knew He Was Right a couple of days ago, and I don't know, all of them. I haven't read a bad Anthony Trollope book.
Yeah, I've read his 2 series that he did, Barchester Towers series, and then the other one. Can never remember.
So you've read all the Palliser novels?
Palliser, yeah.
Oh, I see. I got held up by the second Phineas book.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't face it. So I'm stalled out halfway through, but I need to finish them because I just didn't like Phineas that much as a character, and I thought, oh no, now I have to go through all of this again.
He's back.
Yes, but I need to get through it because I love him, and I've heard that the last books are really great, so I need to finish that. So maybe next year.
The Belton Estate, that was really good.
Oh yeah, that is a good one. I've read that one. I can't remember what happens, but I know I've read it.
Yeah, it's just like classic Anthony Trollope, and I read it as a part of a online book club I'm a part of. I think sometimes he can tend to kind of reuse a plot a little bit, but still it's good. But
yeah, there are a lot of like common situations that come up in Anthony Trollope. So sometimes I get confused. I'm like, oh, did that happen in the Three Clerks, or was that Lady Anna, or
right.
I just get a little Miss Mackenzie. I don't know. So
I think all of us who read it were like, this is great. One lady did say that she has found a couple of bad Trollopes, but for the most part, they're really good. So.
There's sometimes I find things in Trollope that I don't like very much, but they're like an ending I didn't think was really great, but for the most part, I mean, they're just so much fun as you're reading them that I don't really care.
Yeah. Yeah, his humor I enjoy, and I love just the way he sets a scene, even and when he's just talking about the atmosphere or something. Or
I like the way he actually will. The way he does characters, he'll take a very good person, or the person he's set up to be, a very good person, and they'll do something that's just not quite, or they'll have thoughts going through their heads that are just not quite worthy of of their status as the good person. So he's always kind of playing with, people, the good people not behaving very well, and the supposedly really bad people trying to, also not behaving well, but sometimes they'll kind of have a little redemption in them.
Mm-hmm.
So I always love that. I love especially he'll have, it's almost like, he has these kind of Scroogey characters where, I mean, not like Scrooge, but usually it's an older character in the book who has very hidebound ideas about how people should be behaving and what they should be doing. And then, the story kind of works on them to where they realize, they've got to loosen up or they're going to be, they're going to lose all the people they love
Mm.
around them. So there are a couple of stories where people have these great transformations, that are actually pretty believable. Um, in terms of the story. And those are always really great. He does those characters really, really well, like Lady Lufton and Framley Parsonage, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I read in October. I started reading The Way We Live Now,
mm,
and I actually had to give up on that one about halfway through.
it's really good, but it is a door stopper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had too many started at once. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was
Yeah.
getting that plot confused with I was reading Man and Wife by Wilkie Collins, and
Oh
then
yeah.
I was reading the Odd Women.
Mm.
Is that, I think, by George Gissing?
Guessing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was getting all the plots confused, and I'm like, okay, I gotta
Yeah.
let's just do one at a time here.
Three at once is pretty. It's a lot.
Well, I actually had a fourth one going that I
Oh.
just kind of went out, but this one is called A Burglary by Amy Dillwyn.
Oh. Yeah. I was just hearing about that. Was
Really
it
good.
good?
Yes.
Because I
Yeah.
heard Katie from Books and Things talking about that. And so
Yeah.
I was thinking,
Yeah. Someone sent me that book earlier this year, and so I waited till October to read it, and that's really fun. It's I got a couple of different characters, but like one of the main female characters, she's kind of like this tomboy type character, as we call it, but she gets caught up because a friend of hers gets her jewels robbed from her house by this man who's a character in the novel as well, and so like from the beginning who it is that stole the jewels. That's not so much the mystery. The plot is, will anyone figure out it was him? And
mm-hmm.
in the meantime, he's falling in love with one of the characters, but then realizes, if I pursue my love for this woman, then everyone will find out that I'm a thief, and I don't want them to find out I'm a thief. And then he gets pulled into the investigation, and he's trying to kind of
Oh,
distract from. I don't know, a lot of threads being laid down,
yeah. That sounds really good. It just sounds really good.
and it's actually really funny too.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Not
great.
well, maybe not like laugh out loud funny, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
light humor in it. That's good. The young lady who's the main character, she's like 17 or so. She's just about ready to be, to her coming out, to balls and stuff. And she really doesn't want to get married. She doesn't want to deal with that. She loves collecting moths and bugs. So there's all these funny scenes where she's being distracted by bugs and moths that fly by. And this one guy who's wanting to court her decides to catch her a couple of moths as a gift, and she's like, "These are common moths. Why would you give me these?"
That's hilarious.
It's really funny. So her writing style, it took me a little bit to get into at first. I was joking that it seemed like she had just, it was her first day with her new thesaurus, and she was
Oh, really?
all these big words. But once you kind of get used to that, it's really enjoyable. Doesn't have anything to do with Christmas though, but
Oh, yeah. We sidetracked.
yeah, that's okay. But yeah, that's one I just read this year that I
Oh,
think.
that sounds fantastic. I've got to look that one up because I've never read anything by that author either. So
Yeah,
it's a new author to me.
you'll have to buy like a print version. I don't think there is any like Kindle or audiobook available.
Oh, really? Well, that's kind of good because I like print versions of old books too.
One of her other books is maybe a little more well known, that it's starting to become out and more types of material, digital or ebook or audiobook. For the most part, it's like she's one of those authors that have been overlooked for many years that people are just finally, rediscovering and getting out. So yeah. I'm going to keep an eye out for more of her work. Definitely. Well, Liz, before we go, what's the future looking like for Mrs. Claus in the book series?
Well, actually at Christmas, I have another anthology with a Mrs. Claus novella in it, but it's for St. Patrick's Day. It's going to be coming out at Christmas on Christmas week, but it's called the Irish Milkshake Murder Anthology. And it's so it's kind of St. Patrick's Day in Santaland, which is fun because it's the off season, and it takes a place around like the ice ball tournament they're having. It's the closest thing I'm ever going to write to a sports book. So there's that. And next year, right now I'm finishing up Mrs. Claus and the Nightmare Before New Year's, which is be coming out in a year. And it takes place in Santaland the week between Christmas and New Year's, and kind of what happens after the sleigh takes off on Christmas Eve, and what goes on in Santaland. And there are actually a couple of strangers come to Santaland, so there's the elves are having to deal with like what happens when uninvited guests show up. So, like what are they? How are they going to hide that they're Santaland from these, curious strangers? So anyway, so it's a fun. Gonna lots more Mrs. Claus to come. There's actually going to be another novella too. So got lots of Mrs. Claus writing to do the next 6 months. So.
Yeah, good. Well, we'll try to keep business going for you. So
thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's good to have people reading these things if I'm going to write them,
That's right. Yeah, definitely. Now, I was going to ask, do you have any plans to maybe bring Santa and April, like, to, I think she's from Oregon, like to have a mystery set outside of Santaland?
Yes. In fact, that's the next novella that I was talking about,
the
Milkshake Murder, but the next one I'm writing after the New Year's book is going to be April Claus has to go to Oregon to take care of her inn gets flooded in the off season, and so she has to go down and like take care of things there. She gets some people who are elves, elves who want to tag along with her, that she's trying to disguise like these aren't elves. But it's another St. Patrick's Day story, so the people in the town of Cloudberry Bay, they assume that these would be great leprechauns for their St. Patrick's Day festivities. So they're very popular. So
excellent.
Yeah. So it's going to be a little novella set in Cloudberry Bay. So I'm really looking forward to that, because at the beginning of the series we kind of envisioned it as it would be, sometimes they'd be in Santaland, and then maybe in the summer they'd be, but we mostly focused on the holiday books. So they're usually in Santaland. There was really no call for them to go to Oregon in the off season. So but this time they finally get to do, and I've kind of set up some characters down there, so I'm excited to like finally meet Muriel's throat.
Yeah.
The nemesis neighbor.
Yes.
So I'm excited about that.
Oh, how fun. Well, that's I'm glad to hear that. And again, I mean, this is I think the third time you've been on our show. You're welcome back anytime.
Oh, thanks. It's always fun.
Also, I just want to say thank you in the acknowledgments of this book. You mentioned me in the podcast, and that was really special. Thank you.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. It's always great to, I'm very thankful to, the podcast for, highlighting the Mrs. Claus series and all the cozy mystery series that you talk about. It's really great. Great way to discover books too,
Yeah. Well, one of my passions is finding readers with the authors that they love. So I love making that connection.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a librarian at heart. I don't know. So, all right. Well, I got to run. It's about time to put up some Christmas decorations, but
Yeah. Get on it.
That's right.
Time's a wasting.
That's right. Well, Liz, thanks for coming on. And you take care and have a Merry Christmas.
All right. You too. Merry Christmas to everybody and Happy Thanksgiving.
And that will do it for today. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you and your family and your fur babies all have the happiest of Thanksgiving. I live for this day because Christmas is finally in full swing tomorrow. You'll no longer be looked at as a weirdo if you celebrate Christmas, if you say Merry Christmas, if you sing Christmas songs. I mean, they still might look at you like a weirdo, but it's a little more socially acceptable now. So I can't wait to see what this season has in store for us. Now, stay tuned because I have coming up about 3 or 4 episodes right out of the gate where I'll be talking to some authors about their new stories, some children's stories. I came across several children's authors. I didn't plan for it. That's just how it worked out. But they have written some beautiful, heartwarming stories of kindness and love and Christmas. And I can't wait for you to meet them. Not only do they have an incredible story that they wrote, but they have lived incredible stories. We're going to find out about them and how they celebrate Christmas, their memories, traditions, and so much more. I've got some stories planned coming out in December, some more Christmas stories as well. For those of you who enjoy that, fear not. I know I've had some interview-heavy episodes of late, but it kind of helped me out in my busy schedule to do it this way. But I've got some great stories coming up. We're going to hear from Sherlock Holmes. We're going to visit an Anthony Trollope Christmas story. And there might be a few surprises from Mr. Dickens along the way. So until next time, I hope that you all are doing well. Go back to your nap now. And until next time, let's remember to honor Christmas in our hearts and try to keep it all the year. Have a very Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for listening to the Cozy Christmas Podcast. If you would like to help support the show, the best thing that you can do is to share it on your social media account, share it with a friend, leave us a rating and a review, because that really does help get the word out. I could not do this without you guys, and I appreciate it all so much. If you would like to help us out in a financial way, there are several options for you listed in the show notes. You can make a donation on Ko-fi.com, and if you send me your address, I will send out a Christmas card with a bookmark or sticker as my way of saying thank you. There's also some t-shirts, podcast merchandise, hand-painted ornaments I've done over this past year. And a special thank you to Karen and Angela. Your support, not just your financial support, but your encouragement, your positivity, your absolute joy over what I do here really helps keep the podcast moving. And it keeps me inspired to keep doing what I'm doing. So thank you. And others who have given so generously this past year, thank you. Until next time, Merry Christmas and take care.